Hello, and welcome to episode 165 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the sommelier, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
This is a story about wine, and it's starring actor Chris Pine.
No. That's it? You're done? I was really hoping. I said no, but what I meant was, please keep going.
That may have been the longest comedic payoff that I've ever set up in my life.
What did you do? Like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I set this up weeks ago.
Oh, this is the one that you.
Yes,
said?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a story.
Did this happen to you, like in the middle of the night? Like, how did this come about?
Okay, yeah. So we were gonna watch this movie. So this, obviously, the song, if you're listening to this, is about the movie we're doing this week, Bottle Shock. So the way I came across this movie that ended up in us doing it was. My brother Dominic, who's been on the show several times as both guest host and Peanut Gallery, and also sometimes sleeping, his girlfriend, her father is not a huge wine drinker. And we had a wine and cheese evening around the holidays, Christmas time, and he really enjoyed some of the wine that we brought. In fact, so much so that he went and bought one of them. And he's like, I never really buy wine for myself. He goes, and especially not red. He goes, but that one was so good, I went and bought it. He goes, he went on to then tell us a story about a movie he really enjoyed, about a very specific story of wine history. And he's like, you guys have to watch this movie. It's really good. So we sat down like 3 months later to watch this movie. And the whole family plus Dominic's girlfriend was going to watch the movie together. And Gianna had been out all day and she came in and she's like, oh, I don't really want to sit down and watch a movie or whatever. Like, come on. Like, it'll be, she's like, well, what's this movie? She goes, I'll sit down and watch it with you. But if it bores me, I'm going upstairs. I'm like, okay.
Fair enough.
So it's called Bottle Shock. She goes, okay, what is it? We're like, I don't know. It's about the history of wine. She goes, who's in it? Bill Pullman, Chris Pine, Alan Rickman. She goes, I don't know. I was like, come on, just sit down, watch a movie. I said, this is, and I realized the way I delivered it kind of came out in the cadence. I was like, a story about wine, and now it's just all clicking. Nice. It's like, and it's starring actor. Then I sung the second line, and she goes, honestly, I don't know why you don't work in marketing somewhere, because I always do these stupid things where I come up with these little 2-line jingles. Like I couldn't write a whole song, but like sure. I can co-opt stuff that already exists into clever different ways.
Al's jingles. I want all intros from this point forward to be a jingle.
No, but I have to be inspired. It's when I least expect it. How many times have I soused on this show where unexpected I rhyme stuff? That's how it comes to me. It's totally unintentional, and then I discover it or I don't discover it, and someone else does and thinks I'm doing it on purpose.
I've lost where. Oh, right. Say hello, Al.
I'm not singing it again.
No. On this week's episode, we're going to cover Loki, what we're reading, what we're watching, along with some other news and nuggets, all before diving into our flick of the week, Bottle Shock, as mentioned. But first, Al, a bit of housekeeping. TheSpinTune.com has been updated significantly. It looks far better. You can listen to the shows on it very easily.
And including from the mobile site, which was the real struggle before this.
That's correct.
Because it was actually fine to access the show from a desktop.
Right. But yeah, it's been improved across the board. And on top of that, there are now multiple ways for you to submit requests to us for movies that you would like us to review or nuggets that you would like us to discuss. You could either email us at flixandthesix@thespintune.com, tweet us at thespintune, or hit the contact us button at the bottom of the page. There's forms on the site now. Just hit us up. We like to engage with the audience. We're always looking for recommendations. So let us know what you want us to cover.
I actually really like the new font in the body of the stories.
Thank you.
It's classy.
It is classy.
Elegant.
It's called Poppins.
So I was right. Classy and elegant.
Yeah. Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking, after a false start, a Newberg beer, just not the one that I initially selected.
That's right.
Did approximately 1 year ago. Right?
In unrelated news, I have a new beer for a random consumption.
Yeah, I think we did that beer like 3 days after the lockdown started nationwide.
Wow.
So anyway, we are drinking Newberg Brewing's Mojito Madness, also known as Molitor Madness. This is one of the litmus test series, which they do once or twice a year for the last several years, which is a sour ale series. It's got kind of a Rick and Morty looking scientist on the front, and he's doing all sorts of chemistry and experiments here. He's got a frothy beer stein next to him.
I love the askew mustache.
As well
word associated all over the mustache.
Also, as well, the askew safety goggles on top of his head. It's in the opposite direction.
Eyes in different directions. So, straight up crazy eyes.
Yes. I like the little periodic table of elements.
Mr. Deeds.
I like the periodic table of elements square with the Mojito Madness. The number 6, because this is the 6th in the series, MJ, with the lime and the mint leaves up top, plus
and 2 glasses cheersing inside of on the chalkboard.
Yes.
Like that.
There's all sorts of little doodles looking like he was working out a chemical equation of the litmus test, but it's to tell us that it's juicy, fruity, tart, lime, refreshing, and mint.
I imagine so, based on the name and the wonderful scent that is coming from my glass. Al, I'm just noticing that this logo says brewed.
I was thinking about saying it when you said that the 2 glasses were clinking, and I was waiting to see if you would instead do it after.
I'm really excited to give this one a try, so let's go for it.
This one's a 4.5% alcohol by volume. The litmus test, unfortunately, only ever comes in 12 ounces. So
yeah, it's a shame. Cheers.
Cheers. It smells very sour.
That's really good.
Confirmed sour.
That is fun. What did I used an adjective to describe the beer before we started? Exciting?
I don't remember.
Fun?
There was a lot going on right before we got going.
But it's all of those things and more. It's very tasty.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I have drank like 2 of these already, like several months ago. Forgot I gave this one actually to Anthony. I couldn't remember if this is one of the ones that I did or did not give to him. And so I had them floating, the 2 that I had remaining floating in the in-between zone between the beers I can drink and the beers I can't drink because of show. I think this was the type of beer that once I drank the whole thing and it was a little on the warm side, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. But when it's ice cold right off at the start, it is a pleasant
outside, a little cornhole.
This would definitely be a good outdoor spring. Like actually, like we're drinking it at the perfect time. Like drinking it today outside would have been delightful.
Yes, or right now around the fire pit. Yeah.
Yeah, I sat outside and got soaked up some rays today. Full disclosure to those listening, because it's been since after the last recording. I've been in COVID quarantine for the past 10 days. I went a little crazy, but thankfully, the worst symptom I had was I felt a little weak one day, and I was coughing up a little bit of gross stuff like last week. But
sure,
that's actually not that different from like my normal day to day anyway when I'm not sick. So
these are the results for a half-vaccinated man.
Yes. So I don't know if I was lucky or just because I had the first shot or whatever. But really not too much in the way of symptoms. And I didn't give it to anyone, so that's good. I'm going back to work tomorrow. So
nice.
Be good.
Nice.
As we'll get into in the news and nuggets portion soon, I engaged in many different forms of media to keep myself from going insane. Because my first day of quarantine last Tuesday was a pleasant day. It was a little breezy, but it was sunny. And I sat outside for a few hours, and that was nice. And then it rained the next 2 days, and I was locked in my basement. And in the dark that I keep it down here so that the projector works for like 16 hours a day. And by the end of the 3rd day of that, I was ready to kill myself. So sure. I was trying to do, much like muscle confusion and workouts, I was trying to confuse my brain with different forms of entertainment between reading and playing video games and watching TV and watching movies. And there are definitely worse ways to spend your time, but it's a lot different when you decide to have a lazy day and do that and are forced to do that and are not allowed to walk around your house and also know that you have a week plus more of it ahead of you.
Yeah. That is not great, but I'm glad you're on the other side of it now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, the last 3 days were way better because
Good.
I could be outdoors and I could walk around. And also, I knew that my parents were safe from me because they got tested after and they were negative. So I was also coming up past the point now where I was no longer probably contagious anymore. So
Sure.
having a little bit
sense.
more human interaction was definitely much better. So
Going back to this beer here, two things that we need to know. One, as soon as it hits my lips, my mouth does something ridiculous and it just salivates like crazy. I don't know if that's because it's been a very long time since I've had a beer, but it's good. It's really good. I enjoy it a lot. The other thing, I feel like it's everything that Bud Light Lime wants to be, but will never achieve.
well, it's because it's got the actual... Because, Bud Light even has those, like, the Rita series, the Margarita series.
Right.
But they don't have the sour component to those things.
No, they don't. But there's also, sugar. There's so very clearly, like, lime zest straight up in this.
Yes, real lime, not fake lime.
And it's really good.
Yes.
And I love it. Where are you at, Thuckle-wise?
I think this is probably a 2 Thuckle beer.
2 Thuckle? I might go. I think I'm going to go 3 Thuckles for myself. I'm a big fan.
Okay, yeah. So you're a bigger fan of this one than I am.
I'm really enjoying this. Again, it could be because it's been a while since I had a beer, but it's very tasty, and I want more of it. We'll see if a Thuckle gets knocked off as it gets warmer throughout.
Well, I have another one in the fridge, so if you'd like it, I'm happy to give it to you next time I see you.
Oh, okay. Hey, sounds good to me. Al's going to give me beer?
Yes. Well, I have a few beers. Wow, I have a few beers kicking around, still waiting for the next batch of show beers that I have to deliver to you. Hopefully now, with it being nice out, and also you having your first vaccination,
that's right,
and me having one vaccination and COVID, and soon to have my second vaccination. Be nice and safe for everyone. So,
do you have to wait some extended period of time now?
I don't know. I know initially they were saying that you should wait some time. Now I know that the amount of time that they've said is like backed off to like a week or 10 days or something like that, which is basically going to line up perfectly when I was supposed to have the second shot anyway. So I don't anticipate there being any issues.
Fantastic. I want to, one other thing that before when you were saying the name of the beer, you said, Mojito Madness, AKA, I forgot what you said, but it was an autocorrect.
Molitor Madness. Yes.
Molitor Madison.
As in Paul Molitor, the Hall of Fame baseball player.
On autocorrect, on the topic of autocorrect, I was texting my sister, and I decided that I'm just going to jam on the autocomplete button over and over again and just send what comes out of that. And I'd like to share with you now the paragraph.
Yeah, you see those every once in a while on like Twitter or something like that.
It's pretty fun.
Like type a word and then do autocomplete until it completes a sentence or whatever.
So I'm going to read this relatively quickly because there's no punctuation, obviously, so it's hard to make it flow. So just bear with me. But it says chocolate with one of those kind of sad, wide-eyed emojis. So it auto-completed that with the emoji and everything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny. So it said chocolate is the right direction to make a difference to what you do for you, and you have a nice little chocolate cake for the next day or so. I think you can get a drink with me if you're not like that, LOL. I don't think I can get you out there, and I'm going on the same time. And you know what? You do for you and the kids.
Hashtag for the kids.
I found that to be very, very silly.
I don't know why your autocorrect is so obsessed with chocolate. I will not make any judgments. But chocolate popped up 2 or 3 times in there, right? So
yeah,
both chocolate and chocolate cake.
Some chocolate cake. I don't know who could say. Al, let's get into some news and nuggets.
Okay.
Where would you like to start? How about with what you're reading? Because I know you're plowing through some books.
Yeah, plowing through is the right way to go. So as per our last episode, which was from a couple weeks ago, I had just finished the first book in the Expanse series, Leviathan Wakes. And so I think a couple days later, I might have, messed around and read like 20 pages or so of the next book, which is Caliban's War. And then a couple days after that, I was forced to quarantine, and I read the entire rest of the book that day. All of the first 4 books are in the like 550 to 580 page range, it seems like, or something like that. So anyway, yeah, so from Tuesday to this is Wednesday, I have read books 2, 3, and 4 in that series, plus like the first 50 pages of book 5, Nemesis Games, today. So yeah, I read about 1,800 pages worth of novel the past 8 days.
Okay, so you had the itch because you had been off of it for a while. Are you going to burn out by the end of the series, do you think?
No, because I think I would if I kept up the pace I was going, but now going back to work, I will be backing off to a more reasonable pace.
Sure.
There's no way I'm going to be reading more than like 20 to 50 pages a day outside of maybe on like a Saturday morning or something like that. So, yeah, no, I imagine it'll probably take me a week or 10 days to probably read this next book, which is a much more normal pace to be reading than. Just don't get me wrong, I enjoyed those books. They cover almost perfectly. They shifted around a little bit, some of the timeline of the events or whatever, but the first 4 books of the series basically line up with the first 4 seasons of the show. So this one that I just started now basically lines up with the most recent season that came out a few months ago of The Expanse. So it's all familiar territory. They were, by and large, pretty true to the events. There were some characters who have either been like pushed around in how they acted or what they did in some specifics. There was one character who's one of my favorite characters from the show who technically hasn't been introduced yet in the books, and I realized when reading it that the show version of her is actually a consolidation of like 3 characters from the books, like all of the most interesting parts of those characters. So I'm sure I'll be slightly disappointed by the book version of that character because she got to do all the cool things in the show that were across like 3 or 4 different characters in the book. And one of my other favorite characters was introduced in this book more or less how he was on the show, but he is wildly different in the book. Not a fan of him in the book. He was, I thought, a very nuanced and interesting character on the show, and he's kind of just a prick in the book, which is disappointing.
That's kind of lame.
But my other of my kind of 3 favorite characters, while she has way less screen time in the books than on the show, she is every bit the character she was on the show, and she is hilarious. She gets most of the best lines in the books. Basically just being a cranky old bitch, but like in a fun way. Because like you're rooting for her cause. So, and she's just funny because she's like one of those like no filtered, like get out of my way. You know, you're either with me or you're in my way type of thing. Like not that you're my enemy per se, but just I don't have time for you.
You get steamer.
Not full Anakin. You know, if you're not with me, you're against me. But more just get out of my face.
It's more like a Mona Lisa Saperstein. Why are you still here?
Yeah, kind of. But with much more colorful language.
Who are you talking to? The Jagleys.
She has a lot of colorful turns of phrases, most of which are very vulgar, which always interesting. So, but I've obviously been enjoying the show. I think, by and large, my enjoyment of each season of the show more or less matches up with my enjoyment of each of the books. So
cool.
Like that's been pretty consistent. I would say that they've really been quite true to it with just some expansion. Sometimes there's characters who have gotten actually point of views for certain books. What?
Just some expansion.
Yes. No, I do that all the time. You know, they subtly use the word expanse or expansion throughout the books too. And every time I go, ha! They said it. Yes. There was a handful of characters who got points of view who were either super background characters in the show or didn't really exist, who were there because from a world building perspective, it allows them to tell different, because there's more than 2 factions in this ultimately. There ends up being 3 or 4 or 5, depending on what's going on. And so this allowed them to tell the story. You never really, at least up until the point that's coming now, actually, in the books, it's hard to say that any one faction's ever the true good guy or bad guy. There are people who are good guys and bad guys, but it's hard to say that any one of them at least ones that have characters represented through points of view, are the quote unquote good or bad. It's an interesting way to write it, because you can have
like that. That's cool.
a faction even who you think is bad, but the character whose point of view is good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a faction who's good, but the character whose point of view it is maybe not so good, or has to travel down an arc of redemption and all that. It's very conflicted and nuanced and fairly laid out amongst all of it, which to me is really good writing.
I think you would very much like the Last of Us series of games. Hopefully it translates well.
Basically read them all through Brian's writing on the topics. So
yeah,
I get what you're getting at. Like it's interesting, conflicted. The good guys do bad things and the bad guys do good things.
It's a lot. There's a lot of gray. But it's pretty solid. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I've been making some progress as of late on Ready Player 2. I've been getting up very early lately. Very early for me. I used to. Now I'm been getting up around 6:30, which is for me is early, and it leaves me with a lot of time in the morning. So I have my little morning routine, and what I was doing was having some like lemon water, and I was sitting down. I was reading Ready Player 2, and I was kind of burning through it, and then I was like, oh, you know what I want to do this morning? Well, I'm going to play a little bit of a game that I've been wanting to play. And I did that, and then I did that for the next few mornings, and I beat that game, and then I started another game. I was like, so the book, I'm close to the end of the book, but it's kind of taken a backseat. I will say, now that things are finally happening, it's getting better.
Well, typically when there's events going on,
it's still not good. Like as good as the first one, I don't think. It doesn't have the same draw that the first one had, because there are some cool concepts that they're playing with. One of my biggest problem was like it starts off like they have to find these 7 shards, and I'm like, seven feels like a lot. Like it just feels like
three was a pretty perfect number for the first one, right?
Yeah, and it's just like every time they get one, it's just like another 3 chapters of getting the next one, and it's like, oh my god. And it was getting a little rough, and then when we finally like got enough that the story started to progress, I was like, okay, now I'm getting interested again. So we'll see how it plays out. But
7 ends up being one of those interesting numbers where like it takes on relevance for. I mean, that goes all the way back biblically. I guess 7 for whatever reason has a hold in like people's collective minds.
Yeah.
So even when you take something like Harry Potter, where it's like 7 Horcruxes, it's like, but hang on, guys, we already destroyed 3 of them. So really,
that's right.
4.
And like the next,
and it's like, okay, 4.
up
Yeah,
over the next few books. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's no big deal.
4, we can do 4.
Yeah, 4's great. With this, it was like first one, second one, third one, fourth.
And I imagine each time there's a bit of a pause to reset the board.
Yeah,
and
then
it's like
the 6th one was actually in Lord of the Rings territory, so it was kind of fun.
Nice.
But it was like the 6th and 7th, and I was like, even you gave up. They're both in the same spot? That was a tease. They were not. And then there was another one, but that one was like, I don't know, maybe 15 pages, and they just kind of grabbed it. Like it was, it wasn't that big.
Well, I think they were probably like, okay, I don't think this fake out's going to sit well with everyone, so let's kind of get down to business.
So I'm still working through that, but I wonder if I'll be done with that by the next time we record. Probably not. We'll see. It depends on how this game's going.
Well, it sounds like you're kind of doing the thing. I tend to do that too. I'm not even going to say with like quote unquote good things, because I know you're kind of so on the overall quality of the book, but you're overall enjoying the experience or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When there's something that I really tend to enjoy, because this ends up being like things that are like really like close to me that for my enjoyment, especially longer form things like a TV show. Sometimes I won't finish it for a while because it won't end then, you know?
Yeah, I don't feel that way about most things. I'm okay. I like that things end. That I feel like I'm in the minority there. And I like getting to the end and it being over. I like to sit with it after the fact.
That's what I'm saying. It's reserved for very specific things, because like I'm going to mention 2 shows I did this to, and you're immediately going to understand the connection there.
Okay.
That happened with me with the final seasons of The Americans and of Hannah. I didn't want them to end because they are 2 of my favorite shows of all time. Whereas, as much as I loved Game of Thrones, I wanted it to end when it was getting down to the end of it. And that has less to do with, not loving the show and just more not loving what was happening at that point in the show. So, it's just, sometimes it happens where it's like, oh no. Or even when I finished Mass Effect 3, I raced through the game, and then when it became quite obvious it was almost done, I didn't want it to end.
Right.
And I actually
I can see that.
Walked away for like a week and like didn't play it. And then like, maybe I'll play half an hour. Because like, it's like I've gone through 50 hours of this game or whatever. And this series, which has been so important to me, is about to end. And I don't know what's going to happen after.
I know Kim gets like that too. I never really feel that way about like not wanting something to end, but I have something else that could prevent me from finishing something, and that I want that finale to be a great experience. So like, I'll want to be like perfect conditions to like sit down and watch it. And
that's the way
situation might not come.
That's kind of the way it'll happen to me sometimes, or at least I'll tell myself that, where it's like, oh, I'm a little tired tonight. Like I'll watch it tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's like, oh, I was really planning on sitting down and like, at this time, and no, there's something else I want to do. Or, oh, look, the Yankee game is on. I should really watch the Yankee game, and then all of a sudden it's been 10 days, and it's like, I just don't want it to end. I can make excuses to not end.
Al, moving on to what we've been watching, I've been hoodwinked.
Oh, God.
Hornswoggled.
Hornswoggled?
If you will.
Bamboozled?
Bamboozled, for sure. I swear that I looked this up 12 times. And each time I looked it up, I remember looking it up because I could not believe this is how The Walking Dead is ending? This is it. This is the last season? It's not.
I know. I just saw that today, and it reminded me when we talked about it a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know if this is the end of a season that didn't get completed, or if it's the first half and then there's going to be another half. It sounds like this is the end of a season that wasn't completed, which is what I thought originally when we talked about it.
Yeah. Well, they did that already in it like when it came back for an episode and then disappeared for 3 months.
But that was only supposed to be like the half. It was supposed to be the half season finale, right? And that's what I thought. Right.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. But anyway, this entire half season was horrible. It's so bad. But I will say this season finale was great.
Really?
And only because it focuses around the only good character on the show.
Who?
Negan.
Ah.
And it was an entire Negan episode.
I saw pictures of it online, and it sounded like they showed, the backstory stuff, like him and his wife and stuff like that, right? The original Lucille.
Yeah. So, like, first, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is awesome. I think he's a great actor. He delivers, like, when you put him on the screen. Negan is one of the best villains written, I think. He rivals the Joker for me. I think that he's like there's something about him, like he's
comic Negan or show Negan?
Show Negan over comic Negan, believe it or not.
Really? Okay. So I know you have been reading. I don't know if you're not all caught up.
I never finished it, but that's another one where like I was like, oh, like I was like burning through them, and it was like late, and I wasn't like really retaining what I was going through, and I was like, I feel like I should start like at least this volume over, and I just never did. But I have the rest of the series, so I should go through it eventually. But Show Negan is fantastic. He's got so much depth, and I really like it. The comic Negan is good too, but he's not. Show Negan is an evolution of that character in a really good way.
The last half season of the show that I watched was during the Whisper stuff, which to me was the most compelling version of the show Negan, where he's trying to find redemption. Not in a sense of atonement, but in the sense of how do I refocus my whole ethos in a way that allows me to live among society as opposed to bending it entirely to my will, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because he still retains some of the principles, but realizes that he went too far, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or at least knows that he needs to be able to switch on and off as opposed to being on all the time.
Yeah, but they did this great thing of giving him a backstory where, like, years before all this, he was flawed and recovered. And then something terrible happens where he turns into the Negan that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense from his history, right? That he could be, like, he has gone down a bad path before. But not, like, obviously not to this degree. the next thing that happens to him is so like earth shattering for his character that it kind of like Negan makes sense as Negan, like getting to where he went. It makes sense. I totally buy it. And just written, I don't, but with the performance that he gives, I buy it.
Okay.
And then seeing him again coming back is like hitting another breaking point of like really trying to turn it around and like leaning into it. It was a great episode. It was a strong episode of television. Like I really enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, like you guys don't deserve this shit. I'm like, this is so good. He's giving you more than you deserve.
Well, it's been a long time now where the performances have outstripped the writing on the page that they have taken to the screen. So it sounds like the writing maybe didn't let them down for once in this one, but he still probably outperformed what was given to him.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say, the writing probably would have been fine, but with him, it became great. So that was really cool.
Which, like, fine is still an upgrade from what they've been doing by and large for 5 or 6 years now.
Well, especially the last 5 episodes, which are one-off character deep dives on characters that I just don't care about. And that's mostly because I don't really care about anybody on the show except Negan right now. I would still care about Maggie, but she only just came back.
Yeah.
Like she disappeared for a while, and it's like I thought she was gone.
You're not a Carol or Daryl fan anymore?
No. Daryl's fine. I like Daryl, but when you put Daryl and Carol on screen together, I can't stand Carol so much. And it's like I just wish she would go the way of the comic and just jump into a sea of zombies and get eaten, because I'm just over it.
She used to be a really good character.
She was great for a while. Look at the flowers. It was peak Carol.
Honestly, even Here's Some Cookies Carol is pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, but she's become terrible. Like, insufferable. And it's hard to watch. And she brings down the rest of the people that are near her. And it's not great. And again, I don't want to, I actually don't want to, like, it's not the actress's fault. The writing of her character is shit.
Yeah, which has been a consistent theme for me for quite some time now.
It's like they want to do something, but the thing is like, okay, you've said what you want to say. Now wrap it up. Like, stop. Like you're dragging out a non-compelling storyline. Like doesn't make like nobody wants to watch this, in my opinion. I mean, that was speaking for my opinion. But.
That's what started driving me insane on the show. Is like they would have an interesting idea that they would hash out, which had implications obviously for story and for character development. And it's like, okay, cool. It's like, but we've now been going on this for 20 minutes and you're relitigating a point you made pretty poignantly 20 minutes ago. And it's like, you're now making it retroactively not as good because you had to keep beating me over the head with it. It's like, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, it's not great. But that's pretty much for me what I've been watching. A couple of the shows that are airing here and there, but and also still been powering through Parks and Rec again with Kim. And
that's right.
We're loving it. So
yeah, I last week I spent some time watching. I never had actually finished watching the newest season of The Boys.
Me neither.
Oh, you didn't finish it? Because I remember we talked about it.
I think I'm like halfway through it or something.
I know we talked about it several months ago. I think in an episode in which Dominic was on, and you had actually jumped ahead of me, and you hadn't originally watched it, but you watched basically like a season and a half, so you were like a couple of episodes ahead of me in season 2, and I assumed you'd finished it. I couldn't remember where you said you left off with it, and I had left off with 3 episodes left of 8 total, and so I watched the 3 of those one of the days last week, and I mean, it was still a good season. I still really enjoyed the show. I think it kind of lost focus at one point. It felt like I lost track of the big picture a little bit. Like I felt like I lost track of the forest for the trees while watching the show. And it's hard to blame them because they had a lot of interesting storylines and characters and whatever, because the cast has gotten bigger. Despite the amount of death, the show, like the cast has gotten bigger. Not that everyone necessarily is main characters or has full-blown storylines, but unlike The Walking Dead, sometimes when they decide to follow a secondary or tertiary character, there's some interesting bit of world building or character development, or it ends up pulling back to the plot at some point. So I found them to be ultimately productive tangents because they didn't end up being tangents typically. They ended up having some way to inform what's going on the show in a bigger picture.
Right.
But it just was, I'm going to say like 10% too much, which isn't like egregious. It's not something that's like going to make me hate it or anything like that. It's just, it just got a little bit messy. So I really liked it.
It's enough that you noticed it. It didn't ruin it entirely, but you noticed it.
Yeah, like where, the thing that they did was good and I liked it, but ultimately it just made the picture a little hard to focus on because of how big it became. It's not the end of the world. It's not bad. And, I still really enjoyed it. It just, the first season was a little bit more focused to me, even despite balancing the needs of having two separate teams to inform you on, even though you don't get the same level of depth of character of each of them. You get to spend some time with each of those characters, right? That picture of the characters that we had to keep track of was just a little bit too big in this season. All of them, it just ended up being slightly less than the sum of its parts, but each of the parts I found were valuable.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to get back to that soon. I do want to finish it.
Yeah.
What else are you watching?
So I also decided, because Godzilla vs. Kong came out late last week, and I forgot that was incoming. I still had never seen either of the Godzilla movies that have come out in this monster series.
I'm glad you said either, because I wasn't sure. Like, there was a second one.
Yeah, there was Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I had heard really good things about, actually. I know you had seen the first Godzilla and you weren't a big fan of. I remember we talked about it a bit as a prologue to our conversation for Kong early on in the role of the show, Kong Skull Island. So I finally sat down and watched that one on Thursday night, which was also like when I was at my worst of like cabin fever. And that movie was not good. Not a good movie.
No.
So I spent some time Friday writing a review of that and I put it up on the Spin Tune. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it and see if that tracked with your thoughts. So were we more or less of the same mind?
Yeah.
I thought so. Just not a good movie. Cool ideas. Some of it. Really, actually, to be fair to it, there were some really cool visuals. I know we discussed it when we did the episode. The Halo jump is a thrilling scene to watch. Like, it's beautiful to watch. Some of the fight stuff was interesting, but unfortunately there was barely any of it. I felt like it just gave me action movie blue balls. Like, it kept feeling like it was about to happen and then it didn't. Which is not a great way to do an action movie when the rest of the writing isn't very good.
Right.
Which is kind of my core thesis on this whole movie was, you're either going to give me good writing and compelling characters, and then you can tease me with the action and build up to a big climax and have some good stuff there, which some of the final fight was good. Or you can have shitty writing but awesome action scenes, but you can't have neither.
Right.
And like, it movie wasn't egregiously long, but honest to God, I really wasn't even like that tired, and I fell asleep during the middle of the movie a little bit, and I didn't feel like I missed anything.
Yeah, I don't think you did. I forget. I watched it. I think I bought it to watch it, but because it was like $5 to have like the Blu-ray. But
so yeah. Anyway, check out that on the Spin Tune if you guys want. But then, so that was Thursday night, and then Sunday night I watched Godzilla King of the Monsters, and it's funny because my thesis at the end of that first movie was, if you're not going to give me great writing, give me cool action. And that movie gives you a lot of cool action.
Yep.
There's some cool shit watching.
Yeah.
You know, I watched the first one on my projector downstairs. So 1080p, but big screen.
But gigantic, yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. This I did on the 4K TV. So still big screen, but not remotely the size of the projector, but 4K quality. The coloration in that movie was the right call watching it 4K, because there is some gorgeous stuff that you see during that movie. It's well directed as far as action set pieces and big dumb, their monsters are killing each other stuff. It's fun. Now, maybe that's not for everyone or whatever. I wouldn't really even say it's necessarily for me. Like, it's not my favorite thing to watch, but still, for spectacle's sake, it was pretty badass. A lot of what was going on screen. And the rest of it, I would say that the story, not super important. It was fine. You could more or less follow what was going on. Characters, the actors were better cast, slightly better written, so that's a plus. But that's not Academy Awards for any of that shit, But whatever. Like, it was fine. It was a fun movie. I don't know if it was a great movie. But it was fun. I had a good time watching it. It was cool for a big dumb action movie. So now I'm ready to watch Godzilla versus Kong. I loved Kong Skull Island. I thought it was
Same. I remember really enjoying that as well. I am curious though. Do I need to watch the second Godzilla? Do you think?
Well, I don't know yet because I haven't watched it. So
Yeah. Well, yeah. I feel like I could probably just get away with watching the new one.
you probably could. I probably could have too, but considering how much time on my hands I had, I figured why not?
Sure.
Just go.
You
into
can
it.
fill me in on what I've missed when we do the new.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. This time I actually was a little tired watching, and I did doze off for like 90 seconds while they were on heavy exposition. But whatever. I knew what was going on, so whatever. No big deal. Although I did lose track of how one of the human characters got killed off. Like I woke up and then he died like 30 seconds later, and I was like, "How did he get over there?" But other than that, not a big deal. Yeah, it was fun. It was good. It's not a super long movie. It's an easy watch. Like,
okay,
if you got some time.
What's it on?
They're all on HBO Max.
Oh, excellent.
Because that's what they just released. Godzilla vs Kong in theaters at HBO Max.
Right.
So,
okay. Cool. So I could watch it there. Nice. Yeah. Maybe I'll do that.
They do just casually drop into the during a portion of exposition that King Ghidorah is an alien, like out of nowhere. Like, I mean, like the slight spoiler, not super important. If you don't get to watch it, now you know that. I'm sure it won't come up in Kong versus Godzilla. But while they're like trying to wonder why all of these monsters are waking up and what's going on and why they're all fighting each other and stuff like that, they just kind of, someone casually mentions, "Oh yeah, we think he's an alien," and I was like, "What?"
And we're gonna go with that. Cool,
yep.
Cool. All right. Thank you for that. Nice. What else are you watching?
I don't. That's a good question. I gotta consult the list again.
Or is it a what we're watching situation?
No, I think we're down to the what we're watching. Let's talk about
the Falcon, and the clunkiest title of them all. The Falcon.
Yeah, I saw some jokes on that about that online. When did we establish that he was the Falcon?
It's too bad. Do a little bit better.
Well, I made the joke after we did the first episode that it was the Falcon or the Winter Soldier,
right?
And then we have to catch up on 2 episodes. The second episode was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
right?
And the third episode is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Baron.
That's right.
Which,
and club fist bump and glory.
That fist bump was ridiculous. It became a meme overnight, literally. It was a good time, you know. I was laughing. I was laughing hysterically.
I am really enjoying the show. It's the fun Marvel that I've kind of just wanted to watch again. It's not the best of anything, but it's not the worst, and it's entertaining.
I mean, it's definitely like competently made, and it doesn't look like it's very obviously trying to be more consistent with the Marvel universe than the Marvel's Defenders stuff was.
Right.
It feels like it is a part of the world as opposed to just referencing the world. Mm-hmm. And it matches the house style, like visually and all that. It doesn't like, they're not doing big, crazy, stupid, like Thanos type fights, but they also don't have to. But it doesn't look out of place. It looks like what street level engagements have looked like in the series.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I've been trying to place my finger on, like, you mentioned the aesthetic, and there is something there. Like, there's something about WandaVision that matches very closely with Ant-Man, Age of Ultron. There's certain styles there that line up perfectly. With this, it is definitely in the same vein as the rest of the Captain America movies, right? It feels
well, specifically, it looks and feels like the Winter Soldier and Civil War. And
then, not to jump ahead too far, but the Loki trailer is so clearly that cosmic aesthetic that they have. Guardians, Thor.
Some of it, yeah.
And it's interesting how they do that with different people making.
I think it probably just comes down to cinematography. Not that they've all been the same cinematographers, but they've clearly had a mandate to make it look the same.
But it's gotta be a combination of cinematography, coloring, and production design, right? Like there's those 3 things together are making the world that is this certain, like all of these circles when they overlap are the Avengers, but they live on their own and they have their own look and feel, and it's pretty amazing how
because Thor looks like Thor and Captain America looks like Captain America and Iron Man looks like Iron Man, and when they're all together in an Avengers movie, it looks like an Avengers movie.
Right. It's so cool. I give them a lot of credit because I can't even imagine like there's a layer of work, like there's a level of work that's being done to maintain that we're not like privy to.
It
But
explains
it's
why
got to
it
be
takes
a
so
lot
long
of
to turn
work.
around these movies.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
that's
not
fair.
just the CGI, it's making sure all that shit. And it also makes you realize how long the pre-production is going on for some of these before they're even announced in some cases.
Yeah,
And also now that as they're getting into later stages, the later phases of the series, it explains why they're announcing a movie and it's supposed to come out 2 years later.
mm-hmm.
Because you can see the level of pre-production that must be going into it for it to get that consistent look and feel. Because they got to build those sets and they got to make sure those cameras are tuned properly, and they have to make sure the costuming is consistent, even if they change or update the costume, that it looks in the same vein, like it looks like a natural progression from one to the next.
Yeah, yeah. It's wild. I'm so fascinated by the entire thing. I am really enjoying. I'm enjoying like watching where the show is going, watching the mystery unfold. I like the. I love what they're doing with pre and post blip and the effects on like the world and culture and the economy and like things like that, and how they're like, and this entire group of people that are like they exist specifically because the blip happened. Like I think all of that is really exciting and like opens the door for like where all these stories can go going forward.
I also like that, at least speaking specifically to the blip, in the 3 properties that have come out post Endgame, we've seen 3 very different takes of the exact same thing. Far From Home looked at it through the lens of high schoolers, where they made a video and it's a joke that these kids came back during the middle of the basketball game and all that, and they're kind of stumbling over it because they don't really know how to interpret it and all that. And then with WandaVision, you get what it's like for people as they embrace the losses. You know, it's the people who died while you were away. It's coming back to the fact that the person you love died right before you disappeared, and everyone else has had 5 years to move on, and you've had 5 seconds to move on. And then with this, you get, well, what does it look like, not just for kids or people, but the world? What does it look like for the world?
It's a more global view of it all. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm loving what they're doing. I love that I have a new thing to look for every weekend, like to go and watch.
I haven't been loving it to the same level as you. I would say so far I enjoyed WandaVision more than I enjoyed this.
Okay.
It's fine. Like I'm not disliking it, but I would say that at the end we were kind of in agreement that we felt like the first episode was fine. It sounds like you've grown in appreciation since then. To me, I'm kind of still on the same level of it's fine. Like there's like moments that I've loved, but overall it hasn't felt as clean and tight as WandaVision did, or at least maybe not as focused, or maybe I just don't appreciate the direction as much as I appreciated that.
Sure, could be.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time. It's not like I can point to anything and be like, this is bad, or like, this isn't good, or even I disagree with, or whatever. I just haven't found it to be as compelling because it's telling a more straightforward story, I think, and because the stakes are lower. That's probably what it is.
That's fair. I will say that it's got more of a spectacle feel to it, like with some, like they're doing some crazy action sequences. They have like each one feels like a movie, and it's fairly 40 plus minutes per episode. Like,
yeah,
I think maybe that's what I'm really gravitating towards. Is as we've discussed on the show, I am always 100% of the time movie over TV. I prefer a movie, and this feels more like a movie to me each time I sit down to watch it. And I think that's part of the reason why I have like this draw and this excitement to go sit and turn the lights off and like really like sink into it. But I agree that the storytelling in WandaVision was far more compelling.
Yes.
This is just a lot of fun to watch. I know what I'm getting every time I turn it on, I feel like. Yeah.
And I will say I've really enjoyed actually the casting, whether it be returning characters or new characters. I don't know why, for a second it threw me for a loop when the actress who played Enfys Nest showed up in the middle of episode 2 as the seemingly main villain for now, and we'll see if that continues to be the case. Certainly they set her up to be a sympathetic figure, and less so by the end of the 3rd episode, but we'll see where that goes. because now she's gone full blown terrorist. It felt like she crossed the line from freedom fighter to terrorist big time.
Yeah, in one scene.
One scene that I totally did not see coming.
Put your seatbelt on. I was like, oh, this is like really sweet. Like at their core, they're just like these kids that are trying to. Oh my god.
Well, you know what? Honestly, from that perspective, it's a pretty good fake out too, because like the scene before they raid that building, the two of them are having conversations about the before times and remember when we weren't freedom fighters and why did you get into this life? And like it felt really grounded and nice and real, and you realize that this is like a misfit family, and because they're asking like deeply personal questions, and it's the type of questions where it's like we're super close now, but we weren't always, and we've had to become because of circumstances, and it's like you see a little bit more of that misfit family thing, and that's how I read that scene. Right, was hey, whether you're my brother in arms, whether there's a potential romantic interest, whatever, like it was just a small intimate moment.
Yeah.
And no, it's because I'm blowing up this building.
Right.
I was like, Jesus. And also, we're immediately breaking up that intimacy because he's like, dude.
What the Yeah, in the words of Ron Burgundy, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the addition of Daniel Bruhl / Zemo to this is great. He's great. He's a really good actor.
He is.
And I haven't got the opportunity to see him in a lot of non-Marvel stuff, but he was really good in Rush, and coincidentally with Thor. They've never shared screen time, have they?
That's funny.
But I thought he was really good in that movie. I know he's been in a couple of other things. I feel like there's one other thing I saw.
Same. I was trying to think of that as well. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I know I was reading a little article about him, and just he's an interesting guy. I guess he was like born to like a German Brazilian dad and like a Spanish mother, and he speaks like 6 languages.
He was in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, but I never saw that really. So, I thought there was something else.
Did you watch The Alienist?
That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I still haven't got around to seeing the second season, but yeah, he was really, really good in the first season.
Nice.
So yeah, no, he's a good actor. I like him a lot, and seems like they really cut him loose and just let him go be 11 out of 10 right now as Zemo, and that fist pump was like 12 out of 10.
Yep.
But just all of those scenes
sure
and his interaction, and I would say his character has been by far the best written of the 3 so far too.
Yeah,
mostly because they're using him as a plot device or world building device in those scenes. But if you're going to do that and make someone be exposition heavy, have a good performer and have good writing.
Mm-hmm. And then we, of course, the finale. Well, I guess that's fair. The finale of the last episode that aired. Well, when you listen to this, there'll be another one, but we're talking about the one before that. Bring in
the Dora Milaje.
What?
The Dora Milaje, was that not what the group's name was? The guards for the
I couldn't remember the name, but sure, them.
Yes.
Bring them in like that.
Well, I definitely don't remember the character's name. It's not the Denai Guerrera character, so
you're right.
I don't even remember her name right now.
How are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do here? This is fun. As soon as I saw the little ball, I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Like, this is their tech. Like, this is like gonna be their stuff. Like,
see, actually, I didn't know where it was going at first. Like, obviously, I knew it meant something. I just it didn't click for me that it was. Yeah. But as soon as she showed up, I was like, oh yeah, they would have a vested interest in him being out on the streets.
I still love that line. So what are you, White Panther now? Actually, it's White Wolf.
It's great because it's a good retort, and then Sam being like, oh wait, shit, they do actually have a name for you.
Yeah, I enjoy their stupid bickering.
Sometimes it's been a little
that you're not going to leave. You're really not going to move the seat off. It was a good callback.
Yeah, it's been a little bit too much at times, but they've really nailed it.
I enjoy the comical bickering. I don't enjoy when they're overdoing like their frustrations with each other, because they are this like they need to just stop and get on the same page a lot of the time. That can be annoying to watch,
or at least introduce new reasons for it to crop back up, like a compelling reason to show another side of this conflict, not just because some of that is falling prey to the Walking Dead being a dead horse situation. But like, I will say where it peaked when they have the scene with the counselor, that scene was good because that was the first time they really had the conversation. And it's like, oh, okay, there is something here into why like something real, and to like, and I guess technically only Bucky really goes all the way in that scene. Sam does a bit, but he's still more closed off and is just trying to get out of the scene. That was, at least there was like a kernel of, okay, like there can be something real here, but that's really been the only time they've done that as far as the real bickering stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes. I'm looking forward for the next episode, though.
I will say, there's no way that Sharon Carter isn't the power broker, right?
I don't know. I would assume that that's what's going on.
I mean, at bare minimum, I suppose she probably has to be working for him or her, but I didn't think it at first when she showed up, but the way that she left the scene, I was like, oh, so she's the power broker. Okay.
Right. I'm with you on that. Cool. The only other thing that we have here is that we briefly touched on was the Loki trailer, which dropped a few days ago. I didn't really get much out of it other than like, yeah, I'll watch that. It looks fun to me.
Well, I'm more excited for it because it reminded me more of WandaVision, where it's like, we're going to do weird here. Yeah, we're going to do weird. We're going to do a concept here, and we're going to fuck around a bit. And
yeah,
it's going to be weird. And sign me up for the weird, because like, yeah, like you've established that you can reliably make a product, right? Like that's what the Falcon the Winter Soldier is. It's just a reliably product. That doesn't impress me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, check the boxes, great, but like, give me something weird or different or something I haven't seen before. Like WandaVision did that, which is why I ended up being really pleasantly surprised for something I actually had very low expectations for. And so maybe I'll disappoint myself because I now am getting expectations for Loki. But unlike the other two shows, that trailer, at least from the first trailer, actually made me be like, ooh, there might be something going on here, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious to see where it goes. I like that. Where I love things that deal with time manipulation. Like, I know some people are like, I don't really want to or care to follow what like the convoluted results of these actions. I love that stuff.
At this stage, I'm wary going into them. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it when it's done well, but the problem is it's really hard to do it.
Sure. But I think at any rate they're going to have some fun with it. I feel like, and it's going to be cool. I am also waiting Owen for Wilson? This. Yeah, I know.
I must have missed that casting announcement because it didn't even seem like he was like a cameo. It seems like he's going to be one of the
characters. Like straight up in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like that was unexpected. I didn't expect to see Owen Wilson kind of playing the straight man, but also getting to do a little bit of kooky as well. You know, which was probably the right line for him to always strike, where it's like mostly grounded, but every once in a while he decides to fuck around a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. I'm waiting for this all to just turn into the Marvel show, where like every week we get an episode of something and it's a continuation of some storyline that's going on, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. Like a more frequent mini version of the entire MCU. Like where it's like, oh, next Friday is a Falcon Winter Soldier story arc continuation, and the Friday after that is a Loki continuation, and then at some point something crosses over. Like I feel like that would be a great way.
So at first, I thought you maybe were describing like a grab bag thing, where like something's coming on, and it's like they like spun the wheel, and somehow it's like, okay, this episode is. Okay, we've got Loki, the Wasp, and
yeah,
and
I would watch that.
And also. What's his name? Ned from Spider-Man. like how do we get this straight? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
You can't go wrong with more Ned.
When you were like, "Oh, it's just gonna be something random every week," that's what I was thinking at first. Like, how are they gonna fucking pull that off?
Oh man, that's the multiverse of madness right there.
Wouldn't you watch the shit out of something like that? Okay, like it's basically an even more aggressive version of where they went with the Infinity War Endgame stuff, where it's like, okay, let's like pair off a bunch of random people, like Rocket and Thor or whatever.
Yeah,
but, like,
right.
This is
it's
even more aggressive than
figures.
That. Yes, kind of. Okay, we've got Cobra Commander, we've got Darth Vader, and we've got
Oh my gosh. Do you have any other news or nuggets?
I don't think so. There's other things that happened the last 2 weeks, but whatever.
They're not worth it?
Nothing that felt like earth-shattering, or if it did, it was probably 2 weeks ago, so why bother?
Fair enough.
If it was that big, it'll come back up again and we'll talk.
Okay. Well, let's get into some news and nuggets.
Those are the news and nuggets.
Let's get into fun and games.
A little rusty?
Right.
A little rusty this week?
I am. Okay. Everybody has a type of alcohol that matches their personality. Here's yours.
Oh.
Here's a BuzzFeed quiz for you. Pick a food. Pizza, nachos, pasta, salad, burger, or ramen. Lots of good options.
Those are some good options. I'm going to go with pizza, though.
As would I. Pick a word to describe yourself. Smart, fun, cool, bored, unique, wild.
Smart.
Pick an activity. Eating, dancing, sleeping, talking, watching TV, or running. I enjoy eating.
Me too, which is why I'm as heavy as I am. Let's go with eating.
Okay. Pick an animal. Panda, giraffe, goat, turtle, penguin, whale.
Let's go with penguin.
What do these have to do with booze? Pick a sport. Baseball, soccer, football, basketball, hockey, or golf.
Football.
What's the ideal number of people to invite to a party? 0 to 5, just 6 to 10, just a small games night. 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 50, as many as possible.
Go with 11 to 20.
Pick a Disney character. What? Pick a Disney character is what it says, and then this is how the choices are. That Little Mermaid, that talking teacup, that dragon from Mulan, that Lion King, that snowman from Frozen, that talking tree in Pocahontas.
Wow, I was not expecting a grandmother Willow reference in here, but I'm gonna go with Mushu.
Okay. Wow. Okay. You got beer. You're realistic.
I was saying football and pizza pretty much sealed my fate on that one.
You're realistic. You are realistic and no frills and iconic in your own way.
I'm definitely iconic in my own way.
With that, let us get into our flick of the week. Bottle Shock, released in 2008, rated PG-13 with an hour and 50-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis. The story of the early days of California winemaking, featuring the now infamous Blind Paris wine tasting of 1976 that has come to be known as Judgment of Paris. Al, do you want to start off with any awards or nominations that this movie may have received?
I forgot that we did that.
We talked about it once, and then we never did it again.
No, we did it a couple of times, but the problem is we uncharacteristically had some newer releases in some of the movies we did, didn't we?
I think so.
I don't believe this has any major...
I don't think it does either. So why don't you kick us off with your tweet-length review?
Well, I have to be sure. Oh, it did win one award.
It did. Is it a Razzie?
Best Actor by Alan Rickman and Golden Space Needle Award.
What in the hell?
The Seattle International Film Festival of 2008. I mean, like, this is a pretty, like, this isn't really like a big. Well, I mean, I guess
that's fair.
Indie movies that have a lot of nominations for awards or whatever, but no, this isn't that type of movie. So you want me to give my review? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I want your tweet length and your score.
Okay. A fun little movie about a very specific thing that happened a long time ago. Why not? 6 out of 10.
Okay. Chock full of xenophobia, misogyny, and other painfully outdated sensibilities, Bottle Shock, while based on a true story, is flat, bland, and bolstered by some very strange choices for embellishments. 5 out of 10.
Wow. Okay.
I took some issues with the movie.
Well, the xenophobia part is interesting because
it's kind of fine because it's partially part of the story. So I'm not overly.
That's what caught my attention in you saying it. Is like that's the point of the movie.
It's not
like literally the whole movie is xenophobia is bad, and let's disarm it.
The over-sexualizing of the two female characters, one of which does not actually exist, is Sam is not a real person.
Which one was Sam? Sorry, it's been now quite a few, like 6 weeks since I've watched the movie.
Sam is like, I guess, the closest thing to a female lead in the movie.
Oh, okay. So you're saying in real life she doesn't exist? Okay,
that's correct. So this is one of the choices that were made that makes me go, what? Like, I can see, like, if the character is doing some things or making some choices that makes me go, well, that's odd, and it's based on a true story, then I can kind of get behind, like, okay, like, we're just kind of maybe playing it up to, like, something that they've done or experienced or whatever. But there were some odd things that happened there for a character that was made up for the movie.
Well, I was going to say, this is based on a true story, but it's, according to you, she doesn't exist.
Right.
That part isn't true, and so then we're not even taking liberties with things that happen.
Right. We just straight up made it up.
Well, I was to say, unless she's just an amalgamation for other girls, and they just picked all of the big plot points that happened with the different girls along the way, and they formed her into one character for brevity and clarity.
It's possible, but it was, I feel like,
I'm not saying this is a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, this is a thing that one does for stories.
Maybe, but it was it was a not so tasteful portrayal. I was not thrilled with how we're diving right into this movie. This is one of my biggest issues with it. Okay,
I'm surprised you disliked it so much, because I actually, not to say that the criticisms you made one of the criticisms you made very fair, one of them less so. I like
piling on at that point.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great movie. I did find the story it's trying to tell very interesting and compelling, though, and that's the part that is most interesting about this movie to me. And I thought the duality of, considering we had just talked about you wanted to see some Alan Rickman,
yes,
and the fact that you might find just the actual story they were trying to tell interesting, even if they took some liberties.
No, that's fair. I think I really enjoyed the actual true story aspect of it and how that came about. I thought that was great.
That was really the biggest reason why. Well, like I said, that and the Rickman thing is the only reason I even offered this up.
Love Alan Rickman too.
I just thought you would find it to be an interesting story to watch, because it's not a super well made movie, honestly.
No, it's not, and I agree with you. I did appreciate that stuff. The movie could have been very good if we stuck with Alan Rickman. I think either telling the story from his angle the entire way through, or telling the story.
You can't tell the whole story from.
The thing is, you could tell more of it through his lens.
Sure, I'm not saying that the balancing couldn't have been more in his favor. Of course not. Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, this story requires two separate storylines.
I would argue, though, that the son of the vineyard is the way they went. He, in my opinion, if you're looking at this movie, the way that screen time and the way the story is unfolding, Chris Pine is the lead of the movie.
Yeah, I would say he has, like, the plurality of...
And I think he could have largely been skipped, like, his character entirely, and focusing a bit on Bill Pullman's character more, but mostly on Alan Rickman going through this journey of, like, going to the States, trying the wine, following him, maybe introducing some of the other players a little bit better, that whose wine he tasted. Like,
well, I'll say this much as far as choices, as you were saying. This is obviously told from the American side of the story. Mm-hmm. Not to say that makes it more or less factual, but, like, if it were being told by a French or British person, I imagine it probably would have followed it more closely from Alan Rickman's perspective. But because it's told from the American side, they wanted to give that patriotic American version of the story while trying to do slightly more than pay lip service to the foreign aspect of it, right? What I would say, though, is if you made the choice that you want to tell it from the American perspective, I would agree with you that the story is a little bit more rich and compelling and probably less problematic if it's told more from Bill Pullman's perspective than from Chris Pine's perspective. I won't disagree with you there that had I been doing it, I would have done it more from the father's perspective. But I don't think you can actually tell the story without the son.
I mean, he could be there, but it leaned too heavily on like I feel like around him, like even like I understand.
Well, just considering how the climax of the story goes and the fact that he physically goes to the competition, like you need him to be a part of it. But I won't disagree with you that I would have.
But he did again. Also,
the father
added, I'm pretty sure from what I was reading, that he did not actually go. So,
okay. See, I didn't read where this differed from the. I didn't read where it differed from it. Not to say that I'm not interested, but like I got the gist of this story. It was just a thing. Like I said, I know that they took liberties with this because this is a very quote unquote cinematic movie. Mm-hmm. This is very much a movie that they dramatized more. To be a movie. There's no question in my mind. To me, I didn't care enough about the subject matter to do the independent research on it. Even if the 50,000 foot view of the story is true, it's just a compelling story. Was my point. Now, obviously, I was correct in thinking you would be interested in it because you took the time to do the independent research, which meant that it affected you in some way.
Yeah, I was. I enjoyed the history part of it. I thought that was cool.
Yes, that was what I was getting at.
It was the movie itself that I was like. It was the core storytelling parts of it that I took issue with. And a couple more things that, especially if you're gonna go the route of just making shit up, right? Like focusing. I thought Gus was a compelling character. I would have happily rallied around storytelling framed around Gus.
Yeah,
but we started doing that for 5 minutes and then completely abandoned him.
I won't disagree that at one point the movie looked like it was going one way and then it took a hard right turn. And it's like, are we going to come back to that? And no, not really, other than we're just going to loop back that there's a redemption arc and they kind of make up, and also he gets to be represented in the tasting. Like, but like,
am I
as far as his impact on the story, no.
Doesn't his red wine win?
His red wins, but that's not what matters. What matters
I know. that was the whole thing. Kim was like, so the red one, who's red? I was
Wait,
like,
actually, was it his? Was it?
I don't know. I think it was. I couldn't.
I don't
really
remember.
Follow.
I remember the one was Leaping Stag is the red that won. I don't recall that being his, but I also don't know that it wasn't.
I don't know.
The funny thing is, I've actually had that wine.
Right.
Like 3 or 4 weeks before I saw the movie, too.
That's
like,
pretty funny.
Not on purpose, like not in anticipation of the movie.
Yeah.
And when I watched the movie and then they showed that at the end credits, I was like, Dad, didn't we just drink that like 4 weeks ago? He's like, oh yeah, we did.
That's funny. I liked, so there's a couple things that I did really enjoy. Alan Rickman making his way to the States, the flat tire, that whole sequence, very fun. I like that. That's great movie making. Like, super entertaining.
And also, even before that, him and Dennis Farina's banter.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, and constantly pulling the wine away from him.
Yes.
As he keeps trying to refill his
glass. So it's like all of it. Like the banter with like that whole thing, the kind of slapstick nature of it, them walking through like Paris and like talking about all the stuff and planning this trip and this venture and all that. Like I found all of that to be very well done, and it's 2 overqualified actors for the parts.
Yeah.
So just watching them cut it up together was entertaining.
They had solid chemistry.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, oh, this is a good opportunity for it. We were just talking about this. Anthony wanted to see more Alan Rickman. You get more Alan Rickman here.
But then, Bill Pullman.
Yeah, let's just simplify it to Bullman. Okay, we got it.
So Bullman's a little. He sucks, right? Well, not him. His character sucks. Like he's such an asshole. And
well, you get why his son sucks because his dad sucks.
Right.
Different types of suck, but suck.
But they definitely suck together. They do.
Also, they solve all their problems by literally beating the shit out of each other.
Okay, again, the boxing not part of their life.
No?
No.
Oh, so the boxing was a metaphor.
That's actually in the interview. That's what the guy says. He goes, "I guess it was just some sort of metaphor for fathers and sons butting heads." And I was like, okay.
I mean, it was always meant to me to read as double entendre, metaphor, whatever, you know what I mean? Sure. But to know that it's going a step further to literally being metaphor.
Oh my god. So there's that. Okay, so let's get back to Sam and one of my biggest problems. One, I liked that she got together with Gus. I was like, oh, I feel like they actually make a little bit more sense together because one, I can't stand Chris Pine's character, and 2, they both seem to really be into the wine and actually on the same page and maybe have a little bit more.
Well, Gus was a better dude, and then seeing all that stuff kind of helped inform it. I will say that it came out of left field to me, where I was just like, where the fuck is this coming from? And then we get the
comes from is the sardines that she has in her fridge in her shack that somehow has electricity.
Yeah, again, it doesn't even have 4 fucking walls, but it's got electricity. But like, it felt like the wine stuff should have come before the sex.
I agree.
Because then it would have felt like a natural progression.
It should come before the sex, but like more than 30 seconds before.
Yeah, that's my point, was like, if they had meted out those little bits of development of the relationship, it wouldn't have felt like such a random, why are they fucking?
Yeah. I think, and that, while that was an issue, what really bothered me was how much of an issue it was for Bo, who I guess is frustrated because he called dibs. Like, it's not clear. Exactly, like, she's not interested in him.
That's exactly what happened. Yes.
And she shows no interest in him in that way until then they're also having sex.
So I'm trying to remember. Well, thankfully, some things happen between those things, but that's, again, paying lip service, I guess. But I'm trying to remember, because, again, it's been now like a month and a half or so since I saw the movie. Did him and Gus have a conversation where he implied that he was calling dibs? I think they did, but maybe I'm
early on, like when they first like run into her, he says some like kind of nasty stuff that is just like, it's just kind of gross, and in a way like it's like something basically along the lines of like, oh, I'm at some point going to sleep with her. That was basically what
that's what I thought had happened. So,
but then
again, not to justify whatever, but just in like the perspective of just establishing the parameters here. Right?
but then, all right. So Gus, it seems like maybe, okay, while rushed and kind of out of left field, it seems like what we're saying is that Gus and Sam have a little bit of a connection. They get together. Cool. I was fine with that. And then Bo gets all pissy when he rolls up and sees Gus's motorcycle, and then runs away. And then when they eventually come together again, Gus then also becomes the same shitty character that Bo is in their exchange. And it's like, all of this is over a character that does not exist.
Well, again, with the heavy-handed metaphors, right, he steals Bo's girl and he steals Bullman's wine.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, a lot of metaphor going on.
Yeah. Can we... I think we're going to have to start using this Bullman strategy a little bit more regularly going forward. Anyway.
At least where it works phonetically, like it flows well.
Yeah. Bullman's good. But yeah, so then he becomes an asshole. I was like, oh, that's stupid. I really liked the one... There's some fun stuff going on in the movie. There is like the Alan Rickman Bullman scene. Great, right? I liked Alan Rickman tasting all the wines and like saying what he needs to get started, like some of the biscuits or whatever it was that he asks for. I thought that was very silly. I really enjoyed when Bo, Sam, and Gus go to the bar and they're hanging out and they do the blind tasting, and Gus is calling out the wines, and clearly they're hustling them, but it
was a fun scene.
But there was also, they tried to trip him up and he still got it.
Yes.
Which I thought was cool. That was fun. I really enjoyed the scene where there was a really shitty racist guy in a truck and they have that fight or not so much fight. And I was just like, I kind of like the way that these characters are standing up for him. Oh, maybe they have a little bit more of a modern sensibility for this time. But then that was very short-lived.
Well, that was what I was getting at with the heavy-handed metaphor vis-a-vis Gus, where it felt very, the colored guy is stealing our jobs and our wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that, it seemed like, hey, no, he's cool. It doesn't matter that he's colored. We're all just friends here. Espousing the free love that was it 9 years too late hippie Woodstock Bo character. That actually was a pretty funny line when Bull was like, you realize Woodstock's like 9 years ago. He's like, literally had to do the math.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But yeah, no, like, it felt like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, vis-a-vis race relations in California in the 70s wine culture.
Mm-hmm. One more major problem that I have with Sam. There was the whole fleshing the cop thing, which again, written in because the character doesn't exist. There's that. Then is followed up by a conversation that is had at the bar between her and Bo. This is a little while. It's not directly after. It's a little bit after. Something about like a scar on her chest from like a heart surgery of some kind. And I was like, oh, really strange. Like, I don't get this character. This is the whole time. I'm like, I don't really get this character, but if it's based on somebody and they're trying to pull some storylines together, I understand that. Knowing the character doesn't exist Where did this come from?
Well, that's what I was getting at, where maybe she is an amalgamation of different characters, because there are some very specific plot and or character beats with her character that feels like it had to have come from some sort of inspiration. Not just, hey, this sounds good or is convenient from plot reasons. Like, it felt like it had to be inspired by something, or a series of some things or some ones, I guess, in this case. Now, I don't know. I'm just trying to fit the facts to a story that would make plausible sense to me. That doesn't mean that's actually what happened here.
No, but that's the only way that I can accept it.
Yeah, which is why I'm trying to do it.
Because it was like
possibly erroneously.
There was it was like, what is it? Something along the lines of like, we don't see a scar at any point. We are told about the scar, and we were given a backstory for it in a matter of 20 seconds, and then we never discuss it again, and it has no bearing on the story whatsoever.
But did the scar scene at the bar happen before or after the flashing?
I believe it's after.
But then, wait, really?
I think so.
Because I'm trying to remember the order of events there, because they flash the cop because they have to get back to tell the father not to dump the wine, right?
That's right.
Oh, and then they go to the bar to drink their sorrows away, and then they find the wine. Got it. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Now it's finally clicking in my head, like the order they were going on. Yeah, so I think you're right.
And see, that was an embellishment that I was fine with. Like, it's a little bit of a fun chase sequence, really frustrating, right? Like, oh my god, somebody took the wine, the wine's already gone. It's like, none of that happened, but it's fine. That was fun. Like, they would have just bulk sold the wine out of the back of the vineyard, is how it was explained.
Yes.
Or it would have just
it'd be like when,
out of a labelless bottle.
Yeah, it was how anything like that like goes, like restaurant stuff or like outlet clothes, like where they're like, oh yeah, we have like cross stitched jeans or something like that, we sell it for fucking a third of the price or whatever. You're not going to just dump all of that, but from a movie perspective, again, and that's why I was like, okay, this is way too convenient for this to happen or whatever, but thrilling.
Sure, yeah, it's fun. It's fun for the ride.
Yeah, because I'm sure the whole thing about the wine changing color, I'm assuming that's what happened, right?
Yeah, that happened.
And so, like, that's a super compelling, dramatic thing to happen.
That was cool.
It's real.
You know what might be okay? To go with a phrase that you've explained to me, I'm not sure if it's full ass or no ass, but
I was just talking about that.
Bring it outside and look at the light. Like when Bullman screams at Bo to do that, me and him went, what? Also, how much of this wine are we implying that he drank?
Because there's a lot of empty bottles around.
There's a lot of empty bottles.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to recall that scene. I think that would have been acting his ass off. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Alan Rickman, me and Mike, hey Mike, we were talking earlier today, and we were, because I mentioned we were doing this movie. He's like, oh yeah, I saw that a while back. Alan Rickman did it, right? Just like to verify that we're talking about the same movie. It's like, yeah, him, Bill Pullman, Chris Pine. So we're talking about Alan Rickman, and we're talking about him he mentioned him like being good in a bunch of different roles, including even like Robin Hood or whatever. I was like, first of all, he acted his ass off in Robin Hood. Like, he is up to 11 or 12 in every scene in that movie. And so I would say, but like, that's definitely a good acting their ass off. There's a smaller subsection of acting your ass off that's not necessarily good, but sometimes when you say that someone has extra ass, it's because they're trying to act really hard but failing. And I wouldn't necessarily say he was failing. It is extra though.
Definitely, I think he had a little extra ass on him on that one.
Okay, you think he had extra ass? Okay,
I think he had a little bit extra ass. Yeah,
three thuckles of ass, three cheeks,
three thuckles deep,
3 cheeks,
3 cheeks. Chuckles, Bullman's Chuckles.
Bullman's Chuckles.
Oh man, what else happened in this movie? They won.
Well, wait, can we talk about that scene that I talked about before we actually watched the movie, or before you actually watched the movie? Because I liked the montage of Alan Rickman going to the many vineyards of California. Did you also watch it and have the worst sound mixing of all time during that sequence? Okay, it wasn't just me or my TV or anything like that.
No.
Legitimately, in the midst of that, 8-minute montage, there was a 90-second stretch where I could not understand a single word being spoken on screen because the music was so fucking loud.
Yeah.
It sounded like, because at one point they were yelling across the street at each other as if they came around either side of the truck.
Yeah.
And it sounded like they were actually trying to yell over the soundtrack. I wondered if while they were shooting, they were blasting it.
A little actual orchestra.
It was like the Family Guy distracting trumpet where they're playing it in the background and the mob boss is screaming over the trumpet in the background.
I'm now okay. I'm gonna give you two more scenes now. Ready? I'm gonna give you one I really liked, followed by one that made me go ugh.
Before you do that, though, I actually did like the parts of that montage that I could understand because there was some fun stuff. Alan Rickman discovering guacamole.
Yeah, that was good.
Incredible.
That really slow chew. There's something about that.
He looks like he's pre-gagging. Yeah. And then finds out he likes it.
Yeah.
The idea that they all started shaking him down for cash.
Yeah.
The people at the wineries are like, why are they giving us money? And he's like, no, seriously, take the money. Take him for every cent you can.
Oh, man. All right, so a scene that I liked, followed by one that made me go, what? I really enjoy the scene at the airport where we have to band together and we have to distribute the bottles of wine so that they can fly on the plane.
That was pretty
that was fun, entertaining. Scene that I did not like is when Bullman sabers the white wine bottle.
No, actually, I love that scene. Now, granted, what? But also, a good what?
Yeah. So when you do that with champagne, you are taking the cork off, right?
Yes. Well, no, but you also take a piece of the bottleneck off too.
Oh, you do?
That's a thing, yeah.
Okay.
Now, what I will say is, I've only ever seen that done to carbonated bottles of wine.
Right, that explode outward so that the shards.
I imagine that the fact that it's under pressure makes it easier to get a nice clean.
Oh, maybe that makes sense.
Is my point. That being said, that is a thing that people actually do, and you do actually cut a portion of the glass.
Okay, I did not realize that you actually cut it off. Okay.
So I knew when he was going to do that. I was like, wait, is he going to do the ship? And then he sabers it off, and I was like, oh my god. And then after that, I was like, does that work on non-carbonated wine? I don't know whether it does or doesn't, but I do know that the only time I've ever seen it done is on champagne and prosecco. So I don't know if you actually can do that to normal still wine, but that is a thing that you do, and you do cut the glass.
I really want to try it.
I have seen someone attempt it once. It was very dark out, so I can't tell whether they actually succeeded or not. They were able to pour out of the bottle, but I did not inspect to see whether the glass was properly cut or not.
Because I imagine you have to hold the knife very straight, the sword very straight as well. And
there's a very specific way that it needs to be done, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never tried it myself. I've never learned how to do it, but I have seen it done on screen a couple of times, and I've seen it attempted in person once with a modicum of success. So I don't know. I would like to see an actual master do it in person. I think that would...
and then another scene that was a little over the top, but in a good way.
Well, wait, hang on a second. Before doing that, though, just further on that scene, the element of it being the ex-wife's new husband kind of ruins it a little bit, but is a little bit dramatically perfect, where it's just seriously. But
they didn't need to bring the ex-wife in at all. They could have skipped the entire scene of. They could have just skipped all of that. It could have. Just
it was meant to characterize Bo on his path to redemption and not being a shit, but ended up being not worth the time spent. Probably
no.
But if you take out the element of the interpersonal awkwardness there, that scene reminded me of that whole sequence. Reminded me of Ben in Parks and Rec. Every time he goes to the accounting, immediately quits. Where he comes back, except inverted here, where he comes back hat in hand, and then is like, "Fuck you guys, I'm going home."
Yeah,
double middle fingers on the way out. But like, it reminded me of that for a reason. If you just totally altered the power dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. I actually just watched the Cones of Dunshire episode where he's quitting for the third or fourth time, I think.
Yes,
I'm really sorry that I have to do this. Oh, it's okay. I knew it was too good to be true.
Well, the best part about those stupid things was, as funny as that was, and as like sad as that is the postscript on that one episode where John Ralphio goes to work there.
Yeah.
Immediately fired.
Yeah, probably a good call. Out the same way I came in.
Okay, sorry. The other thing you appreciated
is at the actual blind tasting in Paris.
Yes.
When Rickman tallies the score and then runs away and takes Bo with him to get changed. It's like it's so obvious what's about to happen, and just how disgusted they are that they picked the American.
One of them looks physically ill.
Yeah, he spits.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
That was funny. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got. That's the rest of my thoughts on this movie.
I think ultimately we kind of came to the same. I mean, you have a little bit more specificity on the things you disliked. I think I appropriately identified that both of us enjoy it as a bit of entertainment, not as a retelling of a true event, but both of us appreciate the scope of what the event is.
Great.
What a weird story to be like mostly true. Like just like again, the big picture points of all this. What a weird specific story.
It's fun. It's cool. I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, like to me, like it feels like something like that should be more in the public lexicon for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is that I feel that way, but it's like considering how important like wine is.
I think just the idea that it wasn't that long ago.
Well, that's what I mean. Like this wasn't like 100 years ago. Like this happened like before either of us were born, but like not by that much.
Right.
Like what, 10 years before you were born? Like it's not that long ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
Plus Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman, always good to see Alan Rickman. I would like to watch more movies with Alan. You should watch interviews with him. He looks really funny in his interview. He's like he looks half asleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not surprised that he would be like low energy in an interview because a lot of his performances when he's not going full manic, he's very like understated and reserved to the point where if I didn't know better, I would wonder whether he was.
What is your favorite Rickman performance?
My favorite Rickman performance is one specific line in one of the Harry Potter movies. And it's when they were doing the lessons in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix to help Harry close his mind off to Voldemort. And Harry accidentally sees, I think this is the setup for it, Harry accidentally sees Snape's memories of him being tormented by Harry's father. And he says something about his father, and Harry goes, "My father was a great man." And Alan Rickman goes, "Your father was a swine."
That's fair. That's a good one.
Just the delivery of that line deserved an Oscar.
But would Snape be your favorite performance of his, or do you have something?
I don't know. It's hard because that occupies such a big bandwidth of the different roles I've seen him in because of the total amount of screen time across all of those movies. So I feel like my answer kind of defaults to that just because of the total amount of it and other situations and lines I can think of like that. Some of them being acting his ass off, like in that scene, some of them being more understated and reserved. He's great as the sheriff in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He's good as Metatron in Dogma.
Yeah,
he's great as what's his name in Galaxy Quest.
Dr. Lazarus.
Dr. Lazarus. I couldn't think of his name.
I think Dr. Lazarus might be my favorite. And the Metatron is a close second.
Yeah,
but him
slugging back tequila and then spitting it everywhere.
It's so also just his frustration with people not getting who he is.
Yes,
when he has to explain it again.
Or him,
voice of God. Oh my goodness.
Or him explaining the awkwardness of him having a Ken doll crotch. Which it took me way too long to realize that's what Adam Scott was saying in Step Brothers. When the one time when Will Ferrell's walking in, it took me years to realize he was saying, "What's up, Ken doll crotch?"
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, all of his, because he doesn't even have a ton of screen time in that movie.
No. He's great. I love him. Cool, Al. Do you have anything else? Any other notes? Anything you want to, closing thoughts?
No, I think we probably gave a proper amount of reverence and time to this movie, fair. Which is fun, but also probably bad.
It's the bottle shock. Fun, but probably bad. Bullman Chuckles.
I did have one other one. I had to look up real quick when you mentioned Gus just to be sure that that's who it was, because again, I forgot all the characters because it's the same movie. I have seen him in one other thing, the guy who played Gus, and it was so weird because that other thing I saw him in was about the same time as this movie came out, so he looked exactly the same, and that's why I recognized him. And if this movie had come out 10 years earlier or later than it did, I wouldn't have recognized him. But he played Carla's brother on Scrubs, and he annoyed the shit out of me as a character, but his interactions with Turk were classic. Like,
they're pretty great
of the time.
He was also in The Pest.
See, I don't remember. I think actually now I think I looked him up and I saw that he was in that. I don't recall him in that movie.
He's one of the best friends.
Okay, yeah, I just don't. It's been 20 years since I saw that movie. He just cracked me up. Him and Turk together, them butting heads. There was one great joke that he's not even on screen for, or just rather, not even that it's a great joke, but just the unexpectedness and the way that in which he is referenced on the show. Did you get all the way through Scrubs? You didn't, right?
No, not all the way. No.
So there's an episode where they did a musical episode because there's a patient who, and they don't really know why at first. It takes them the whole episode basically to figure out what it is. Every time she hears someone talks, she hears them singing as if it was like Broadway tunes.
Okay, and I'm not sure if I saw that or not. It sounds familiar, but you might have explained it to me.
Maybe, I don't know, but it is like one of the episodes that like even people who haven't seen the whole show are aware of. Like it's one of the ones that's like made it into the zeitgeist because there's like a couple of big things from that episode that have made it out into public.
Yeah.
And so there's one song that they do where it's Turk and Carla arguing, and it probably doesn't age super well now, but the whole point is that Carla is trying to explain to Turk, who they've been married for a couple of seasons already on the show. She's trying to explain to Turk that she's Dominican because like one of the lines is, "Why did you tell people that our baby's Blaxican?" And I believe the whole like chorus of the song is, "I'm not freaking Puerto Rican, I'm Dominican."
Oh my God.
So Turk is trying to explain the things he does know about her. And he says like, "You've got 3 sisters." And she shakes her head and he goes, "2 sisters?" And she goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Well, he goes, I know for sure that you've got a brother who's a huge asshole." And I just like a totally unexpected way to bring it up. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There's like 3 separate episodes where the 2 of them are spending the whole time trying to kill each other, basically.
That's great. I should get back into that show.
Yeah, I love that show so much.
Well, that is all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthe6@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and bear goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
Thanks for coming out.